Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much for being here today. My name is Garry Thomas. I'm the current director of the Oklahoma Highway Safety Office. I want to thank the members of law enforcement who are here today to support us as well. We really appreciate your efforts. I also want to thank the governor's staff, first of all, not only for all their support in this initiative, but for making the command decision to bring this inside. It was a little chilly out there this morning, you know. But in Oklahoma, we're kind of used to bad weather and used to change. But I've noticed there's one thing that doesn't get changed whenever it gets cold, and that's impaired driving. It seems like when it's hot, we drink to cool down and celebrate, and when it's cold, a little toddy to get warm and, you know, just any reason to drink, but then the decision to get behind the wheel is what we're here to talk about today. Impaired driving is not new to the state of Oklahoma. It's been around as long as we've had cars and the repeal of prohibition, right? Okay? But the face of DUI is changing. Who our impaired drivers are, their drug of choice, and the consequences are all changing. Our law enforcement officers have seen it every day. And unfortunately, the state isn't really up to speed yet and ready to deal with some of those challenges, and that's what we're here to talk about today.
You have to choose this time. No, you have to help.
There was the time when we were afraid it would go ahead and release, if you bear with us just a little bit. We've made great progress in this state over the last years in reducing fatalities. Our highways are much safer than they've ever been. Safer cars, safer highways, better enforcement, good laws. We're in good shape. We've even reduced the number of DUI deaths on our roads. However, those deaths are not going down to the rate we expect them to see, nowhere near that. We're still 35% of all fatalities in the state are from drunk drivers. And that's alcohol only. We really don't have a clue on those that are abusing illegal as well as prescription drugs. And we're working to find a solution to that as well. In 2012, my office was confronted with a report from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration that said, it was basically a report card in the states, and what it said was Oklahoma was near the bottom. In the number of deaths per 100 million miles traveled, we ranked 46 among the 50 states, as well as DC and Puerto Rico. It was kind of a wake-up call for us, but the more troubling figure said that over a 10-year period, in our ability as a state to change the dynamic, to bring down those deaths, we ranked 51st. Remember, I said DC and Puerto Rico, and by the way, their rate of improvement was even better than ours, okay? So we ranked 51st in doing anything about it. So we were pretty concerned about it as an office, thought we were doing pretty well as a state because they were coming down, not like we'd like to see them, but when we ranked ourselves against the nation, it was kind of a shock to us. So first thing we did as an office was request an assessment of our process by our state partners. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration facilitated this assessment by bringing in our counterparts from other states to kind of look at our system. And what we found out is basically Oklahoma has a fairly good system, but we're missing a lot of key elements. After that assessment, we went to the governor's office to seek guidance and direction to say, where do we go from here? How do we want to approach this? That's the time when Governor Fallin had the foresight to go ahead and immediately, by executive order, establish the Governor's Impaired Driving Prevention Advisory Council, or GIDPAC, and tasked the membership of GIDPAC with finding solutions, looking more deeply into Oklahoma's system to see if we can improve and bring those numbers down and save some lives in Oklahoma. If you'll bear with me, I want to just take a minute to acknowledge the membership of that council. I was fortunate enough to be appointed to that council by the governor and serve as the chairman of the council. It's really because I missed the first meeting. You know how those things happen. Vice chair of our committee was Senator Kim David. Senator, appreciate all of your work. The Honorable Judge Don Deason was a member representing the judiciary. Liz Gifford, Liz representing Stop DUI, Tulsa-based advocacy group, DUI Prevent Advocacy Group. Stephen Coonsweiler, who couldn't be here today, he's the district attorney-elect from Tulsa County. Darrell Weaver, Darrell, where'd you go? Right up here up front, director of the Bureau of Narcotics, and he's been most helpful in this project. Eric Franklin, Deputy Director of the Department of Corrections, thank you for being here this morning. Commissioner Michael Thompson, Secretary of Safety and Security, couldn't be here today. His National Guard duties took him out of the state for the day, and he really wanted to be here and said he regrets not being able to do so. The last, and certainly not the least, member of the committee was Commissioner Terri White. Commissioner White, I'm sorry, which shoulder? Here you are over here. As Commissioner of the Oklahoma Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, she brings a certain expertise that was very, very valuable. So you can see we had a broad range of dynamics involved in this process. We wanted to find people all across state government as well as outside of state government to kind of look at the system. We found out immediately that the problem is complicated. Our system is entrenched. There are a lot of reasons people don't want it to change, but the biggest thing we found out is we really didn't communicate effectively as state agencies, and we found out that impaired driving from all sources of impairment is a very, very complicated issue. It isn't as simple as arresting your way out of it. Now, Colonel Rick Adams of the Highway Patrol will visit with you here in a minute about law enforcement efforts to ramp up, to get drunk drivers off the street. But our task was to prevent that from occurring in the first place, not going out there and apprehending them once the crime had been committed. It's too late in most cases. But we looked at all elements of it. Prevention, treatment, assessments. We worked with the judiciary, prosecutors to come up with a plan. What we're here today to do is basically to talk about the face of this plan, to kind of change the dynamic in Oklahoma, change the dialogue to say, it's been too long since we've made a difference in Oklahoma. It's up to us, not just government. It's up to every citizen in this state to end DUI. So we appreciate you being here today and listening to our message. It's been a valuable experience for me, and I think we've made great strides in just meeting, discussing, identifying the problems, and now beginning to propose solutions. So without further ado, I'll turn this over to the people who really know what the problems are and how to address them. Commissioner Terri White, certainly in her position with the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, is well aware of how complicated addiction, abuse of drugs and alcohol are, and she led her agency in an effort to address prescription drug abuse in this state, and that experience was very, very valuable to us in this process. So, Commissioner White. I didn't think you asked a little.
No. Good morning. Thank you for including me this morning. I think that the fact that mental health and substance abuse, both treatment and prevention, played such a prominent role is a testament to our governor, who understands that for many of the issues our state faces, treating and preventing the diseases of addiction and mental illness in the first place are key to getting all of the outcomes we want. Safer streets, healthier families, more economic development. It's all together, but one of the things I think is so exciting about this initiative and why I'm honored to be here this morning is that from the beginning, this has been part of the plan. And I think that's going to make a big difference in us changing the rates in Oklahoma. Because not everyone necessarily thinks about the connection between the law enforcement side of arresting someone who's driving while impaired, either under the influence of alcohol or medication, and the fact of how they got there in the first place. And the fact that we're thinking about solving the problem upstream to prevent it in the first place, I think is going to make a huge difference. Because working together is the only way we're going to truly achieve what we want to achieve for the state of Oklahoma. The fact is that addiction and substance abuse does play a significant role in Oklahoma's rates of impaired driving. And it's about changing our attitude and culture, not just about whether or not it's safe to get behind the wheel, although that's critical, but what we do in the first place about the issues of these diseases of mental illness and addiction. As Director Thomas just said, I think one of the most important things that we're talking about is we cannot simply arrest our way out of the problem. That won't solve it. That's too late. The only way we can end DUI, truly end DUIs, is to prevent it. For many Oklahomans, substance abuse is not a matter of choice. For 12% of our population, they are addicted and dependent on the substances they're using. They need medical intervention and treatment to stop using these substances. So simply arresting is too late. It's how we get treatment to these adults. But not only that, but the key the key to this issue and the forward thinking that Governor Fallin has and that we're working together, all of us, so hard on is preventing it in the first place. The average age that Oklahomans take their first real drink, not a sip, not to taste it, their first real drink is 12 years old. It's 13 for girls and it's 11 for boys. Their first real experimentation with alcohol. And we know for those 1 in 10 brains that are going to become addicted, many are addicted before they even reach their 16th birthday. So if we're going to talk about preventing DUIs, both alcohol and drug-impaired DUIs, we have to talk about preventing alcohol use among our youth. But we can't just talk about alcohol anymore. We can't just talk about alcohol because unfortunately in Oklahoma, we have one of the largest problems of any state in our nation with the issue of prescription drug abuse. We have more prescriptions written in Oklahoma than almost any other state in the nation for hydrocodone, oxycodone, Vicodin. We are 4th in the United States for the number of prescriptions written. We also, unfortunately and tragically, are ranked near the top for the number of people who are dying as a result of prescription drug overdose. We had more Oklahomans die of prescription drug overdose last year than actually died in motor vehicle crashes. Imagine how many people were driving before their overdose occurred. Imagine how many people were driving before their overdose occurred. What we know is that when we look at the numbers, drug driving in Oklahoma, unfortunately, is increasing. The number of drivers with drug-related conditions involved in traffic conditions has increased over 20% in the last 10 years. Over 20%.
I don't know.
Apparently the video wants to make sure we make that point, so we're going to go back to that in just a second. The determination of many drivers identified as having drug-related conditions is based on the fact that the investigating officer finds pill bottles in the car at the time of arrest. Many of us have heard those stories. But there are many times that this is underreported because we know that there's a high probability that there's a number of drivers involved in traffic crashes that had drug-related conditions that didn't have the pill bottle in the car with them. So we know it's an even bigger issue than the numbers show. Knowing that we rank number 4 in the United States for this issue, knowing that opioid-related deaths have increased 423% in the last 15 years, this is a serious issue in Oklahoma. As the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, the good news is that we do have some programs in place. We are working very hard to prevent and reduce alcohol consumption among minors in the first place. One of those, our favorite projects, because it's one of our most successful, is our partnership with law enforcement. The ABLE Commission, I see Eric Smoot here with the ABLE Commission and many other folks, is about ensuring that we prevent the sale of alcohol to minors in the first place, because that is still an issue. 20% of all alcohol sold in Oklahoma is consumed by a minor. 20% of all alcohol sold in Oklahoma is consumed by a minor. So our compliance checks partnerships, thanks to the ABLE Commission, make a huge difference. Responsible beverage sales and trainings to retailers to make sure, particularly all of our retailers, but particularly our young folks who may just be starting out waiting tables as they're putting themselves through college, working at a grocery store, working at a convenience store, understand the importance of a valid ID check before selling alcohol. We also have community and school-based programs with some of our amazing partners and our Oklahoma Regional Prevention Coordinators, our 17 networks that cover the state, many of whom are here today supporting this initiative, working with universities, tribal governments, and local communities to do things like Alcohol EDU, which is free to every middle school and high school student in Oklahoma, an evidence-based online program that only takes an hour, but has been proven in results and study after study to reduce underage drinking. So making initiatives like that available. We have our continued role in our partnership in DUIs as we do assessments for offenders to determine, is there an addiction problem here that needs treatment? Because for people who are caught the first time without an alcohol addiction or a substance abuse addiction, usually that's enough. But for people who are addicted, an arrest isn't going to change the fact they have a disease. And so doing that assessment to make sure we get people to the right place, to the right interventions, and that we have treatment available is critically important. And most of all, integrating mental health and substance abuse, and particularly substance abuse screening, into primary care and emergency room departments to catch this before people ever become addicted is a huge initiative that we're attempting to undertake at the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, and we know is going to make a big difference at preventing this problem early. Governor Fallin has put together a task force comprised of several state agencies and many other partners to address the issue of prescription drug abuse specifically in Oklahoma, which relates to this issue as we talk about drug driving. The amazing thing about her initiative and all of our plan together is that we've seen some amazing results. Amazing results around the issue of education and outreach, legislation changes around medication availability, a naloxone initiative that has saved, just since the pilot that began in April in Tulsa, has saved 10 lives. 10 lives that were opioid overdose deaths, on the verge of death, that have been saved by law enforcement in our partnership around naloxone. Opioid prescribing guidelines for physicians, given that we prescribe more opioids than almost any other state in the nation, and our amazing partnerships with the Bureau of Narcotics that has led the effort, along with the district attorneys and other folks, for safe disposal of our medications, because we all have a role to play. And if we have medicine sitting in our medicine cabinet, it's waiting for our children to get a hold of it, our friends to get a hold of it, someone else who would become addicted or abusing if we're not. And so we all have a role to play in this. And together, we can make a difference. I'm really excited because I think the fact that we're marrying the prevention and treatment efforts into this effort around DUI is going to allow Oklahoma, where we do have one of the largest problems, to be the state that actually has the best answer, because these are the keys and we're all working together. We're tackling these issues, and we're going to be able to do the same with impaired driving. We will make a difference for Oklahomans, and we will save lives. Thank you for letting me be here this morning. Now, please let me introduce Colonel Rick Adams. He's the Chief of the Highway Patrol. He's going to talk about the law enforcement side and the approach to ending DUI as one of our partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everybody. I'm Rick Adams of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. It's an honor to be here today and to have a chance as one of the leaders in the law enforcement community to introduce this program. I would like to welcome all of y'all that come out today. I echo the sayings that we're all indoors today rather than outside, so I'm sure everybody in here is glad of that fact. I want to also say thank you to the leadership of the governor in this particular program, and also to the leadership of the GPAC and all the law enforcement and mental health and all the other folks here in the greater holistic public safety community for the efforts that they've done to put this program together. Garry, you and your team, I appreciate highway safety and everything that they've done as far as coordinating and putting this program, so aptly named ENDUI, together. How serious is the problem we have in this state? You know, we have made an impact on it. We've all worked hard, and we talk about how we can't arrest our way out of it. Every law enforcement officer in here can raise their hand and talk about how much that they've worked on trying to end DUI just through the enforcement side. Well, we can't. Let's think about this. We've talked about it a second. I'm a combat veteran. We just come out of a Veterans Day, so let's talk about that for just a little bit in comparison to our problem we have on our own streets. In the 10-year period from 2002 to 2012, we had over 2,100 killed in action in combat operations in Afghanistan. During that same period of time on Oklahoma roadways, on the streets, the highways, the county roads in our state, we had over 2,300 folks that lost their lives in alcohol-related accidents. We should be appalled by those numbers. And that's the reason why this is such a great initiative that we're working together as a holistic team to approach and attack this problem from the beginning to the finality of trying to get these cases prosecuted and through court. Now, you talk about these fatalities, we don't talk about, when we talk about them so much, the human impact that goes on in the background of these. Human impact by unfulfilled expectations of families, from losses of life, from maimed and injured individuals. When you look, you can talk about the numbers here, and you can multiply that by 5 or 6 if you want to expand that for the number of people that are injured, or other type of things that's happened to them that they're going to carry scars for the rest of their life because of these senseless accidents. And we talk about these things being senseless because this is such a preventable crime that occurs out there. We can't wrest our way out of this, and that's the reason why we've taken the holistic approach to the governor's leadership of working this from all angles of the public safety community to try to attack this problem. Law enforcement is going to meet this challenge, and as one of the leaders in the law enforcement community, we're going to work this problem jointly. And when we say this, talking jointly, as a greater community, we're going to come together with teams. These teams are going to attack impaired driving anywhere that they are in the state, targeting those areas that we got great probability of drunk driving going on, where we got problematic areas that we've known for years. We'll be out working those areas and trying to impact DUI in our state in those areas. Through this, I think we will be able to make a substantive impact as far as lowering the numbers out there over time that's actually getting behind the wheel of a car and driving. This is not just a state program. This is a statewide program that is made up of over 130 agencies, both tribal, local, county, state. They're working together, and you can see the representation in this room. They're wearing all colors of uniforms, all of us working with the same mission, as one team, with one mission to fight driving under the influence and impaired driving. We've already made some impact as we've started some trial basis of this program with the ENDUI operations. And some of our statewide teams has been out, and just in two operations that they've been on so far, they arrested over 337 intoxicated and impaired drivers on our streets and highways here in the state of Oklahoma. That's very insightful when you're looking at just two. 337 people that made a bad decision to get behind the wheel of a car and put everybody else on the highway's lives at risk. So we're here as a law enforcement community to try to preempt those disasters that occurs in families. We have pre-planned events coming up. November 21st to the 30th, we'll be out in Forest working. December 19th through January 1st. July 3rd to the 5th. And then we have our Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over campaign, which we do every year, August 21st to September 7th. We'll be out there working on those particular days for sure. And then for all the other times, it's not the only times we'll be out there working with this particular program. The ENDUI statewide operations will be taking place in any community at any time where we think we might have a problem, where we have a place where we have a lot of drinking going on. That might be at a concert, it could be at a festival, it could be at a fair, any kind of event where we think that there might be a lot of drinking going on in that area. We will have these operations moving around the state to go out and try to impact those areas. Again, these are not the only dates, and through the assistance of our regional teams, we'll be able to get out there and make this happen. These DUI teams have been outfitted with 4 vans. 4 vans that's been equipped with the necessary equipment in order to allow an officer to be able to make an arrest on the side of the road or bring a driver, a suspected drunk driver, in right there on the side of the road and be able to test him immediately to see if he really is drunk or not, and be able to move him from there back to his car if he's not, or to take him into custody, be able to process him more rapidly so he can get back out on the road to look for the next intoxicated driver. And as we had heard in previous statements, when we talk about the fatalities and the things that we've had over the years, that's just on the alcohol-related side of this. We have no idea, when you get down to it, how many folks that we have out there that's through prescription medication, through the use of marijuana, through other kind of drugs that we have out there that are driving under impaired on our highways. And the officers out here that have a chance to interdict that, and they're the ones that get to see the aftermath. Normally the first responders that respond to the aftermath of these things when we are not able to catch them in time. So with this, I really welcome this program. It's an honor that we're having an opportunity to participate in it as one of the state partners and have an opportunity to come here today and pitch this program for the greater community. One team, one mission, working it that way, we'll be able to have an opportunity to end DUIs in our state. It's now my honor and my privilege to be able to introduce to you the leader of our state, the Governor of the great state of Oklahoma, Governor Mary Fallin.
This is truly an exciting day for the state of Oklahoma. It's a day where we have brought so many partners together that you've heard a lot about to really make an impact, make a difference on the lives of our fellow Oklahomans, to address an issue that has plagued our state for quite some time, and that is impaired driving, substance abuse, addiction issues, and to bring together partners across the state of Oklahoma, working in collaboration, cooperation, tackling a very important issue that affects all families in our state. We all know someone that has had a family member, a relative, an employee, a friend that has had some issue with addiction and may have ended up in the law enforcement system itself because of that addiction. So today we are taking a big step forward for our state to bring everybody together in this room to develop a statewide plan through the executive order, which I'm very proud that we were able to implement back in 2013. So I appreciate the large turnout that we have, especially with our law enforcement community. We have so many people that the hallway's packed out there, so I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here today. And Chief, thank you for your leadership. Colonel, we appreciate all that you do for the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. You have a lot of your patrolmen that are here today. We appreciate the large attendance by our law enforcement officials that are representing both our city, certainly our state officials, and different other divisions of law enforcement itself. And of course, we are very proud of the Governor's Impaired Council and Prevention Advisory Council itself. And I want to thank Gary Thomas. Gary, thank you for all that you do with the Safety Council and the work that you've done with this committee and leading it, and certainly Senator Kim David. Thank you also as the vice chair of this group that is working with the legislature. And I think we're going to see some more efforts coming out of this legislative session to address some of the issues that have been discussed today by the various people on this panel. And to all the people that have been serving on this council, thank you very much for your time. It's important to pull together all the expertise, to be able to collaborate, to talk, to look at the resources that we have, to look at the challenges, opportunities that we have in the state, to really make a big impact, to make a big difference, to chart a new course, to change the direction of some of the challenges that we have in our state with impaired driving. And today is the launch of that plan, so I appreciate all of you. And it is true, back in 2013, we did write an executive order making this a state priority, that we would address the issue of substance abuse, of addiction, of impaired driving, to be able to help prevent the different issues that we see with addiction issues and certainly with driving itself, and also to implement a statewide plan with everyone coming to the table to work together to address this issue. And I think this all starts with acknowledging a hard truth about our state, and you heard many statistics, and that is that we have way too many Oklahomans that drive with impaired driving. And we have loss of life. We have accidents. We have lives that have been changed. We have people who end up with disabilities. We have people who end up in our corrections facilities. We have people that are financially hurt. We have moms and fathers that lose a son or a daughter, which is very devastating, or even colleagues or coworkers or family members or mothers or fathers. We all know someone that has been affected by the impaired driving and what it can do with the loss of life, or even certainly the financial losses that we have experienced. Over the last 5 years, drug and alcohol-related crashes have accounted for 35% of the total fatal crashes. You heard that statistic just a moment ago. On the average, there are 241 Oklahomans that have been killed each year over the last 5 years. That's 20 Oklahomans each month that have lost their life because of impaired driving. And that's why we put together this plan, is that too many people are losing their lives, too many people are suffering in the state of Oklahoma, and we can do something about it. And today we are launching that plan by working together in this collaboration. There are people who may get in their car, may get in a vehicle and say, well, I've had a couple of drinks, but it doesn't really matter. Or maybe they've taken some prescription drugs, as Commissioner White has talked about. Maybe a sleeping pill, could be something else. Could have a couple of drinks, get in their car and say, well, I can make this. And then all of a sudden, we have a loss of life, or we have a loss of property, or we have a loved one who ends up in our correctional facilities. We've known those people. All of us have experienced that. And so the ENDUI campaign is a huge step forward for our state to say we're making it a priority in the state of Oklahoma to tackle this issue head on, to bring together the resources and to make a difference in saving those lives. And by having the federal grant and now having what we call the Batmobiles, that's a good name, it's the blood alcohol testing vehicles, Batmobiles. We're going to have 4 of them that will be stationed appropriately, as the Colonel just described, at various locations during various important events across our state, so that when people see these vehicles, and they are equipped to be able to do the testing that we need to do, they're going to know that Oklahoma is serious about making a difference in eliminating impaired driving in our state, and certainly to send a signal that we're serious about stopping impaired driving in Oklahoma. They're going to have a visual reminder when they see those vehicles and by the launch of this campaign. And it's certainly going to help our law enforcement. And when our law enforcement stops someone and they suspect that they may be driving impaired, whether it's through alcohol or maybe a substance abuse issue, and they're not real sure what it is, and they have to stop their routine of public safety on our roads and our highways, now they're going to have an extra tool to be able to help them so they don't have to take so much time away from their normal duties on the road to protect the public. They're going to have a piece of equipment. They're going to have vehicles that they can utilize this testing equipment that will be in those vehicles themselves. They're not going to have to always run to a local station itself to run tests or run to a local hospital to run some of the blood tests. Now when they have a van that's close by or at a major event, they'll be able to go right into that van and have the appropriate equipment and testing that they need to be able to assess what is the true problem that's going on with this person. So it's going to be a great addition. So the council has been working very hard, not only on putting together the plan, getting these vehicles prepared, but also putting together a media plan, because part of this campaign is about educating the public. Here's the challenge, here's what we need to do, here's how we can work together, and here's how we can address this issue. And so there are a series of PSAs that we're going to show you in a minute. Hadn't interrupted me yet. I don't know who's running it, but we have developed a series of PSAs that we'll be launching, especially throughout the holiday months. You know, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, it's certainly football season, basketball season for the Thunder itself, the Christmas season, New Year's will be here. And so we wanted to get this campaign launched, especially during this time of the year when a lot of people are celebrating the holidays, but to also remind people about the impact of impaired driving. There also is a new website that people can go to get information that is dedicated to DUI and impaired driving resources. And the site has information about state laws. It has information about prevention tips and how to identify the signs of someone that may have a substance abuse issue or addiction issue, and to be able to identify that. It'll also tell where to go to get resources and how to get help. And I think that'll be a great resource. The site is www.ENDUIOK.com. So we're very pleased today to announce this new website that is launched now as part of the overall statewide plan. And finally, for individuals who are looking to help us promote this campaign, they can go on social media sites and they can help us by telling their stories, by telling about the number of issues that have been addressed. Maybe it is a reduction, and I anticipate we'll see a large reduction in impaired driving in our state. Share those stories, share the latest news, share information and the resources that are available, and to be able to know events and updates and when there are planned activities throughout our state, be able to utilize Facebook and Twitter and social media, and that'll be all a part of the ENDUI OK Twitter handle and also Facebook too. So this is a very important step forward for our state to help stop impaired driving events from happening, to protect our family, our friends, our loved ones. And I just can't thank all the people who have been working. You heard them all introduced. So many people from different organizations across the state that have put in their time and resources, their expertise, to bring together a plan for our state. And this is just the first launch of it. We're going to be launching several other projects during the next many months to help end impaired driving and impaired DUI in general in the state of Oklahoma. And so I want to just thank you all, and I think we have a video that we're going to show. Is it the time to do that? All right, so we'll turn it over to the video right now.
The PSAs address several things. The first PSA we've created is basically a bar scene that says, in this setting, servers themselves need to know there is a responsibility that you have as a retailer to stop the sale. Okay? You've had enough. I am liable. And that's some of the educational efforts that we've talked about here that are ongoing in the state that we hope to capitalize on and ramp up. Server responsibility to discontinue service of alcohol when a patron is intoxicated. And in this particular video, that's exactly what happens. You know, the well-intentioned server goes, I think you've had enough. And of course, in our scenario here, the individual acknowledges and says, sure, get me a cab home, okay? We have another one where it's just people around the house. It's a couple of housewives all having a few glasses of wine of an afternoon, you know, when the kids are off in school and they're unwinding a little bit. And one of them begins to have a little bit too much, and the other moms begin to say, it's just about enough for you. It's 2 a.m., you know, or 2 p.m. rather. It's time you cut it off. And we're trying to show there that it isn't just bars. It isn't just alcoholics. This takes place in our homes. And take the responsibility as the host, because we do have some social host laws in place now that hold you criminally liable as well for allowing somebody to consume too much alcohol, certainly for minors. The other video that we've done is basically some people who are walking downtown in an area. They observe somebody driving in a manner that appears to be intoxicated. It's easy. Pick up the phone, hit star 55, dial 911, report it. Take part. Everybody take part in doing your role in preventing DUI. What's the other one? Okay, we have two others. The other one is a sporting event where dad is sitting around the house just having a beer like, you know, so many do, watching a sporting event. When his young daughter says, hey, it's time for us to go, Dad. I've got to get to the practice. And he goes, okay, puts down the bottle. And the young tween girl, knowing the situation, says, thanks a lot, Dad. I really appreciate it, but Skylar's mom's going to pick us up. I'll call her. You can continue watching your game. Even young children know when it's wrong to drink and drive. It's okay to speak up respectfully to address the issue. The other one, which was the pharmacist. We have a pharmacist. Everybody's been to the pharmacy almost and gets the prescription, and the bottle says, don't drive heavy equipment, okay? And in this case, the pharmacist simply goes a step beyond and says, have you ever taken this drug before? No. On the label, it says, don't drive heavy equipment. Your car is heavy equipment, so be very, very cautious when you take this. He says, I can end DUI. Everybody has a role, from the prescriber, the parent, the patron. You know, everybody has a role in our state in ending this tragedy of DUI. So that's the message we're trying to send with our logo, ENDUI Oklahoma, our PSAs, our website, our billboards that'll be up, and our constant media campaign, which also can be tailored. I'd like to point out to the media that the vans that the governor mentioned, we have 2 of them on the north steps of the Capitol where we were going to hold this event, but the TV would have worked out there. They're out there for you guys if you'd like to get some photo ops with some of our law enforcement officers. And if you law enforcement officers like to go down and take a look, 2 of them are down there. You'll be seeing those all around the state, and we have 4 of them. We will also have those 2 vans available at OSU at their next game this weekend. It's going to be a little cold. Somebody will get inside the van and warm up a little bit. And it'll also be at the Bedlam Bowl. We can tailor all of our messages from ENDUI Oklahoma. In this case, it'll be ENDUI Sooners, ENDUI Cowboys, and the colors will change according to the season. With Christmas, we'll go green and red. We can tailor these to any event that occurs, any holiday. So it's an exciting thing for us to do, but we want to stress this is only the public face of that message. We're simply trying to say, here it is, it's in your face, remember it, we all have a role. It is no longer tolerable in Oklahoma to drive under the influence. Let's end DUI. Let's don't reduce it. Let's don't talk about it. Let's end it. But that's only the face. We have a lot more things planned. We're going to be talking about legislation, as the governor mentioned. We're going to talk about additional partnerships. This is not the end of it just because we've made some PSAs and said, okay, good, let's all end it. So while they're working on that, would it be take questions from the media? So or the audience. If anybody has any questions about this program, raise your hand.
How do the vans work? You said you weren't going to arrest your way out of this, but it sounds like that's designed to catch a lot of
Yeah, we acknowledge that arresting our way out of it won't fix it, okay? We've tried that. But statistically, DUI arrests have decreased statewide by all law enforcement, state, county, local, cumulative efforts. have significantly dropped and steadily dropped over the last 10 years. There's a lot of reasons for that. Manpower, and any district attorney or lawyer in the room can tell you that a DUI is one of the most complicated cases that you can actually prepare. Our officers have to go up and testify about things that are extremely complicated, and they are very vulnerable to, to defense challenges. And so not only that, but there are hearings they'll have to go to at the Department of Public Safety, reference the driver's license. It gets very, very complicated. And now, not only in alcohol, now our police officers are faced with, what kind of drug is this? How do I know what kind of drug? How do I get the blood? How do I get it to OSBI and OSBI test? What do I tell them to test for? The tests are very expensive. They're time consuming. Our office is working, and law enforcement is working with OSBI to ramp up their capabilities in that area. They do a great job, but this dynamic is shifting. There's a lot of reasons, but DUI arrests are going down in the state. And as the chief mentioned, this is going to be an effort to say, okay, this is one of our primary duty, law enforcement. We're coming to a community near you. If you've got a problem, chief, give us a call. If you've got an event, we'll bring our vans, we'll bring some additional enforcement officers, state, county, local, and we will make our presence known. It's not going to be any kind of a covert activity. We're coming with a billboard. We're in your town. Do not drink and drive today. Okay? So that's the intent. Come in, publicize, and address the issues. Is that good?
But the vans, I don't understand exactly.
Okay. The vans will be utilized in order to provide a mobile office and a platform where officers can come in on the computer, run a driver's license check, do a report. They can do all the things they need to do to prepare this case, to test the blood alcohol, the breath alcohol rather, of the individual, have the results there ready, and basically turn the individual over to somebody else to transport while he goes back. Okay? It's a mobile platform which gives them a lot more flexibility. Does that answer? Okay, yes. Statistically, they are not overrepresented. As a matter of fact, I think if somebody some of my statistical people could bear with me, I think overall Hispanics have a slightly lower rate of impaired driving than does the overall community. But yes, there's a problem there. Everybody has to take responsibility. There is a problem, but it isn't inordinate in that community. Yes, and most of our advertisement would be available in Spanish for those networks in that community.
You have a traffic violation, you stop the individual, you're evaluating them, they're in a car on the side of the road. There's time, if you started a stopwatch on that, there's a time that begins to run. Then you've made the determination you need to place cuffs on this individual to take him to jail. Well, when that time comes, depending upon where you're at, whether you're in a city or you're a county officer or whether you're a state trooper, the time that it takes for the record to arrive and for you to process everything at the scene, and then be free from the scene to go to the sheriff's office or to the police department or wherever the intoxilizer's at, takes a lot of time. Some cases it could take up to 2 hours from the time that the stop occurred till the time that the person's actually standing before a breathalyzer about to take that test. What those vans allow us to do is they allow us to, right there on the side of the road where it happened at, immediately take an individual, run checks, find out things about maybe their past traffic history if we need to, right there in the location, complete the paperwork, be able to take that test right there on the side of the road. What that does is that really collapses that time period dramatically with those vans located there, and it helps these guys work really hard on it. Yes, sir.
Are the vans going to be mobile?
Mobile.
Just like checkpoints only, or?
We use them at checkpoints. Obviously, we can't stop somebody with one of them.
Right. I didn't know if they were going to be out.
Yeah, they'll be out at a checkpoint, and our folks will be located, a team effort in different locations around the state. Governor?
Okay. Let's close out the questions, and I apologize for our technical difficulty, but please go to our website, view those, and you're going to be seeing them a lot. They're going to be on the air. So I apologize, but they're good videos. Trust us.
Thank you, guys.
Governor, thank you.